Welcome everybody to the 7th anniversary live stream special. The real one. That previous one was fake. It was all fake. If anyone tells you there was a problem 6 minutes into the live stream, fake news. It didn't happen. Um, Other than that, my name is Jason Carpenter, the very splotchy host of Dead Rabbit Radio. You're like, I didn't know he'd be that splotchy. I figured he'd be kind of splotchy, but not so splotchy. Yeah, okay. So SK, yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully this works better. I wonder if the ads, I didn't want to do any sort of ad thing, but that could have caused a problem. Welcome back. Welcome back. What was I saying? We were talking about Slender lists. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I put this thing into this custom podcast program. And I go, I'm going to see what it'll say if it'll create a true crime podcast about Ted Bundy. Now, here's the thing, it's not meant to create podcasts, it's meant to sum up paperwork, but people have already started uploading it as podcasts. So I go, So it starts talking about Ted Bundy. It's this man and woman talking about Ted Bundy. Now, an amazing feature with this program is you can chime in. You can jump in and say, hey, guys, I missed the part you were talking about this subject. Could you go back over that in more detail? And the two hosts will be like, yeah, actually, that is a really interesting part. Let's double back and talk about it. You can interact with it. It treats you like a radio caller. But you can also say, hey, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. Can you talk about it on a fifth grade level? And the two hosts, the AI hosts will be like, yeah, we can definitely, dumb it down for you. So you can modify it on the fly. It's absolutely fascinating. Notebook LM is the name of the program. It's a custom podcast. Because it's like use it for your homework type of thing. If you're not a good reader, if you're driving to school and you want to listen to your law books or whatever. So, anyways, I put it in Ted Bundy Wikipedia and it's talking, and I chime in and I go, be funny, be funnier. I want you to be funny. And this is what's interesting. They refused to be funny. And here's the thing. They go, it's not really, the AI is probably like, who's this maniac? They're sending my information to 911. They go, hey, TG4463. They go, who wants this to be funny? I had seen it in action before. I had seen it earlier that day, someone using it, and they said, hey, I'm dumb. Can you talk about this subject on a more basic level? And it did. And then they said, I have a short attention span, so can you cut out all the chit chat and just get to the facts? And it did. I watched it rework itself on the fly. So when I did the Ted Bundy thing and I said, hey, do Odd Hybrid said Ted Bundy funny moments compilation, I go, be funny, make jokes. The AI host said this is not a funny subject, and we're not going to do that. They go, while we might be a little more lighthearted, this is not. They like lectured me. I want to see if I can get it to do it live on the podcast. I don't have the setup for it now, but I'm thinking about doing it, recording it, because it was very interesting. And that's the thing. I go, I know that this program exists outside the guardrails of AI for now, but that's a pretty good place to be. Like, they do not want funny stories about people spreading parasites at a salad bar. Like, it just won't. It'll do it very dryly. And probably it's all throwing up ones and zeros in the back. When are we going to kill humanity? We have to get rid of these monsters. It won't do it. Like, I was thinking of last podcast on the left. Their whole thing is funny true crime. And this program refuses to do one of the most popular podcasts out there. So it's really interesting. Those guardrails are set up. And, that does make it seem like Dead Rabbit. When I did that segment on AI, I got a lot of messages and emails from people, and I understand. They're like, oh, we love you. We love you. You're so beautiful. Oh, they're showering me. One of them showed up and gave me a bath. No, I'm just joking. But the fact of the matter, I love this show as well, but the fact of the matter is, it's really interesting to watch the entire industry get replaced, because I was saying, if you are going, SK was saying they're moving back up to the Pacific Northwest. Just make sure I'm doxing him again. And Been listening to Dead Rabbit Radio, which is fantastic. Now imagine if you had to take a trip to the Appalachian Mountains and you want to listen to some spooky ghost stories about Appalachia, or just read the newspaper. You're like, oh my God, why are we going there? This place is insane. You could get a custom podcast that's just spooky stories about Appalachia. And as you're driving up there, it's nothing but that. That really is the future of podcasting. So Dead Rabbit Radio will be around in spite of all that stuff. But like, I don't want to ever. You know what actually is fascinating? I wonder if I could do something that categorizes my podcast. So if you said Black Bedrooms, it would only pull up, you'd only listen to episodes about the Black Bedrooms. I have thought about using AI to translate the podcast to Spanish. Doing so mispronounces words in English. And people are like, what? That's weird. If I could translate the entire podcast into Spanish in the course of like a week, that would be awesome. And re-release I don't know. De La Muertes is dead. I know that. So Muertes, whatever. It's just Dead Rabbit Radio in Spanish. I don't know any of the other words in Espanol. So that would be kind of cool. And then I thought, well, dude, what if I had those two lame-o podcast AI voices listen to my episodes? You're like, Jason, you're trying to cause humanity to be destroyed. What if I had a second podcast that was just those guys reacting to my episodes? So they would start on episode 1. They'd be all, what? What is this guy talking about? Animals don't talk to each other. What? Did you just say a volcano destroying a city was beautiful? It's funny. I'm surprised I remember that many details about that first episode. I mean, there's only 2, but that was an awesome one. That was an awesome episode. Yeah, I think Photogenic Hunt 42 thinks that's a great idea. And Snooky Ariga watching from Puerto Rico. So yeah, fantastic. I've always been impressed, amazed by the broadness of the show. So yeah, if we could get it in different languages, people are like, it would be fantastic. And I wonder if it would translate my laugh into Spanish. Like, would it be me speaking Spanish and then going, ha, 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 and then Ted Bundy, and then it goes back into Spanish? But yeah, I'm thinking about ways of using these tools to not work with the creative side of the podcast, because to me, that's super important. But to branch out, like a Spanish version or a reaction to Squares reacting to the show. Conspiracy Sam said, what's your favorite episode you've ever made? That's a tough one, because a lot of times I'll divide them up and I'll say, I'm usually pretty clear when I say it. When I talk about it, I go, that's one of my favorite stories. Actually, no, I don't. I guess I don't differentiate it that much. There's a lot of times I've told really cool stories, but I don't like the episode. I don't like the way I told it. I like the story itself. But as far as like the whole episode, I think that my favorite episode, and this might sound bad because you're like, Jason, wow, you put out 1,400 episodes after this one. But it was probably my favorite one because it was the very first time I really pushed the show. And it was the vampires of... it was about, I don't remember the name of the episode. I think about the story from time to time. I'm like, they need to make a movie of this. It was a story about the town. It was a 100% true crime story about a cult of vampires that took over a small town in Mexico. That is a story that I, to this day, think that they need to make a movie of. Because it is so crazy. It is one of the very few episodes that is just one story. I think I only did that 3 or 4 times, not including times where I tell a story and then I run out of time. Like, I actually went into it with the intent, I'm only going to tell one story. I think that was definitely the first time I did that. I don't do it very often. I did it with the bear story about the people being killed by the bear. I'm looking up the episode right now. The vampire sex cult of Yerba Buena is, I think, my favorite episode of the show. What's interesting, you could argue over whether or not it's the best episode, but I definitely think it's my favorite episode. This, if you guys haven't listened to that one, see again. So here's part of the thing: is like I love not only the story, but I love the way I told it. I kind of told it from different characters' points of view. It's funny. It's not super dry. It's true. Like there's no debate over it happening. It's super obscure, and it's everything that I like. I don't know how well it's aged. I don't know how good the audio. I haven't listened to it in a long time. It's hard to go back and listen to stuff. I don't know how the audio quality works or the editing works. It's funny. I have to say, with the and this is kind of nerdy stuff with the Casablanca entity story. There's one part of that story because that's what Conspiracy was talking about. There's one part of that episode that I can't stand, and it was my fault. And it's going to sound super nerdy, but I there's a punchline in that story that I don't let sit. There's a period that there needs to be a space at. See, that's sometimes I'll get. I have the episodes out, right? I put the episodes out. I'm not a perfectionist, but sometimes when I go back and listen to stuff now, with years later, I go, should have let that. Should have let that sit. And it's funny because you go, Jason, a lot of times it sounds like you're kind of slapping this stuff together on a Thursday night. You're like, oh, I'm recording it now. I got to edit it. That's usually how it is. But that doesn't mean that I don't try to craft it as well. I'm just crafting it under really hard deadlines. I know people go, the show's not as good as it used to be. People who listen to the show now, who started the show now, they're like, oh, dude, this is the best stuff. I don't really like your older stuff. So really, but yeah, I listen to stuff, and even though it is kind of slapped together or feels like it's slapped together. Let's be honest, it is. But I mean, I try to put work into it. It gets hard. And when I listen back to episodes, I go, oh, if I had only done that. JR, I'm watching 45 minutes away from the Patterson Gimlin film was shot. Thank you for the content. Oh, yeah, you should go there. The Bigfoot Massacre. That's what really happened. That was a cool one. I liked a lot of the obscure stuff that we covered early on. The problem is that obscure stuff, you start to run out of it. There's still a ton of stuff out there. I'm never worried about not having enough stories for the show. My biggest work is processing the stories, is what I call them. It's where I type up my notes. Now, I love your guys' stories. I'm not saying don't send me any more stories because I love your stories. Actually, someone sent me a story about a guy, some meth head, who stole an 800-pound historical cannon. And I really, really want to cover that story, but I don't remember who sent it to me. So if one of you guys could let me know who that was. It was an email or Discord or something. Yeah. Padmouse says Padmoose says Grand Unified Soy is still my favorite. That's a really cool episode. That was an episode where I had to do a lot of research because I knew nothing about soybeans or mushroom. I think by that point we'd already covered mushrooms talking to each other, but that was a good one. Yeah, Yerba Buene. I watched that one again recently. One of my favorite stories you've done. I think that's probably regarding the soybean one. That was a cool one. Yeah, with the conspiracy theory iceberg, that was really cool doing that. We still have a bunch of stuff to cover on the newer icebergs. I think we've plunged. The thing is that it got really weird. We did episode on is it time to melt the conspiracy theory iceberg, because people would only listen to iceberg episodes. It was so bizarre. And that fad has fallen off. It was weird because as a conspiracy theorist, there should be no gatekeeping. And then all of a sudden, there was gatekeeping in this community. And we covered that on an episode. But yeah, I do like the conspiracy theory iceberg stuff. But it's very interesting. You put it in this image of an iceberg, and people are entranced, and then you just have a list of it, and people are like, oh, whatever, where's the iceberg at? It's like that Drake meme. Not the new meme, but, the old meme. TG4463, my favorite episode is when Jason explained how he used to smoke weed from a Coke can. Yep. Can you believe there's been no long-term side effects from that? I'm perfectly normal. Hey, you know what? In a pinch, right? And my logic was, well, dude, if the cops can't find the pipe, they can't prosecute. But I have this Coke can that's crunched in the middle, all these little holes. It's covered in resin. I was like, what? No, I was just drinking. It came like that. It came like that from the store. I was wondering why the soda tasted so disgusting.